teleplay statistics here. 55 pages, 41 scenes, runtime of 48 minutes. That's 1 minute and 8 seconds per page, and one scene every 1 1/3 page. So the math's a little differently for the teleplay. Now for formatting, mechanics, and style, and this is the part of the podcast where we look at the script and see what is unique about the actual writing on the page, the formatting, because everyone does it different. Everyone speaks the same language, but with a different dialect. That's a good way to think about it. Dan Fogelman and his team make some choices here about the script. So the first thing we want to look at is the scene headings. They use days on every single scene heading to indicate where we are in the story, because there's a lot of jumping back and forth different time periods. And they do it on every scene heading. There's no mini slugs. It's a full heading every time, and every time it tells you day 1, day 0. And then when we go back in time, it'll tell you day 1, 2, 3, or 4. Now, it took me a second to figure it out. These are not chronological days. Like day 2 is not the day after day 1. Day 2, in this case, is the second day that exists in this world in this flashback period. So in the 4-year flashback period, this is the second day that we're showing you. Then the third day, which is like a month later, is not the day after day 2. It is the third day in this flashback. So I'm guessing if they had to go back in other seasons, maybe they do a 2.5, 2.2, or maybe just in a new script it's not necessary. I don't know. But once you figured that out reading the script, it actually made understanding it a lot easier. The white space here is tremendous. The action lines just go, go, go. You can see here on page 1, there's not a single paragraph over 2 lines. Now, some of the dialogue gets long because Fogelman's known for characters that have a lot to say. But when we get to the action lines, it's really broken up. And in fact, it's done more so sort of how I write, by the beats. So it's not just a paragraph of information between dialogue. It's like each beat is sort of like a setup, a shot, so you can see how it may look cinematically. The way they format phone conversations is very simple, very clean, and a great example for all writers. They just use the intercut. And this is common. This is not like groundbreaking stuff, but it's just a great example of how to simplify. We see here on page 38, 39, a conversation between Xavier and his daughter, Presley. There are 2 locations, and it just simply says in one action line, we intercut with his daughter, Presley, at school. Then the conversation continues regularly. Presley has something to say. Xavier has something to say, back and forth. So you don't overcomplicate it by creating these multiple scenes and going back and forth between the scenes. And even when they describe the action of the actor and what's taking place, they don't dwell on where they are. They just say, hey, Xavier sinks. And, his reaction to what Presley said here on the bottom of 38. It doesn't matter where he's at. You know already where he's at. So it's a good example of a way to do a telephone conversation. Fogelman and his team are very fond of the parenthetical. It's used a lot, almost on every piece of dialogue, to tell you all the ways that you would use a parenthetical. Actor intentions, blocking, pacing, information you need to know. Just a quick example on 15, we see here Cal's talking. They use then a lot instead of beat, not exclusively, but to let you know that the person has paused for a second to reflect or change the pace of the conversation. Here we have Cal doing Xavier, meaning he's imitating Xavier, and then back to himself. We got the then again. So throughout the screenplay or the teleplay, a lot of parentheticals. So there are 2 schools of thought here, obviously, right? One side says, hey, you need to write your dialogue good enough, clear enough that you don't need all that. It's obvious how they're delivering the line. And on the other hand, it's like, well, we want to be very clear that everyone who's creating this film or this show knows exactly what's going on. And then the truth is always somewhere in the middle, trying to find the right balance. The main thing is that everything is clear, that the actors feel like they can contribute and bring this person to life, and they're not being overly handheld. Dan Fogelman double spaces after every period at the end of a sentence. So we've talked about this before. It can actually be a good tool for dialogue to help the actors, where it's very clear, that breaks up the dialogue, makes it easier to read, easier to study. Jesse Eisenberg does that in his screenplays. We looked at that when we studied A Real Pain. But this is the first time I've seen it in action lines. So it's just like throughout the entire script, if the sentence is over, tap, tap, and then we keep going. Throw back to the old typewriter days. Of course, he's my age, so he probably did take typing in high school. We were the last group to do that. You know, of course, I grew up in Southeast Texas. Maybe everyone else moved on before we did. I don't know. And then in this particular script, they gave us a gift by leaving in some of the administrative stuff. Most of that gets taken out before it goes public. But here we do have the cast list, which they show us, you know, all of the actors that are involved in this episode. The next page shows us the set list, which is all of the places, the interior and exterior, which is really neat. So you get to see how all of the screenplay and teleplay stuff that you write gets broken down by other people, and why the scene headings and such are important, that they're clear, and that you're not changing the name of the location. You know, whatever you name it the first time, that's what it is. It should stay that way. It makes it a lot easier. And then the third page shows us the day-night breakdown, where each scene, whether it's day or night, when they're going to have to plan and organize and shoot it. I'm going to take a time out here just to say thank you so very much for listening to this podcast, watching this podcast, whether it be wherever you get your audio podcasts or if you're watching on YouTube. Thank you. Also, I want to let you know I try to update on the socials, so if you're not following me there, please find me. Let's be friends. Share me, please, with your screenwriting friends, your filmmaking friends. And you can always find out what's going on with me at my website, jeff-barker.com. All right, thanks a lot. Now back to the podcast.
Thank you for watching my dad's podcast.
And now to direction on the page.